information about a second chance. Okay. Look, right when I got on the road, I even added that smile.
The mic didn't pick up first.
Okay. Is it on? 1, 2.
Yeah,
Both of them on?
yeah.
Okay.
Pause for a couple seconds and then go.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to hear more about A Second Chance. We got a special guest today. His name is Joe. Now, not Joseph. Do not call him Joseph because that is not his name. Guess what, people? I witnessed the ID. Joe Jenkins. So we're going to turn the mic over to Joe, and let's hear about his second chance and the awesome opportunities that he's had and what he's now doing in the community to help others.
Ooh, second chances, like I explained last week, they're vital. They're vital to the community. They're just as vital as anything that we want to give life to. Second chance for me was everything. I prayed to God and asked him if he just granted me one more chance at life, one more chance at being a father, one more chance at being able to be a son, just a person in the community. If he granted me one more chance, that I would go where he tell me to go, and I would say what he tell me to say. I told him that I would serve him. So the second chance for me, along with so much other things, is that ultimately God gets the glory.
Right, amen. Yes. Woo, you gonna, hey, that's a shocking moment right there. So when you think about, now do you mind sharing like how much time that you were sentenced to?
Which time? Both. Collectively, I did 13 years in federal prison.
13. So, okay, now that you...
Let me be correct. I did 13 years, but I was sentenced to 10 years the first time, and I was sentenced to 6 years and 2 months the second time.
Okay. So now that you said that, what was the difference with the second time?
I love when people ask me that question. Because guys was asking me that on my way out the door. And it was like, what's so different about this time? Like, how are you going to make it this time?
Right.
And I explained, and it never changes. The first time that I got out of prison, I only had one goal, and that was to get out of prison. And once I reached that goal, I had nothing else to reach for.
Right.
So I had prepared for nothing else. And so I resorted to all I had, which was the streets and the knowledge of selling drugs.
Right. And that's the difference. You changed.
And the difference, yes. So now, I'm glad you asked that question again. The second time that I was released from prison, you see this binder, and I bring this, and the importance of this is because everything in here is what I walked out of prison with,
Right.
which is my plan. And so I got a binder with 3 business plans in here.
Yes.
And that was the difference, because I can, at any point, I can revert back to here and remember where I'm supposed to be going.
That's right, man. The power of writing it down.
This is my blueprint. And I explained it, like when I explained it to the guys that with the Brave Effect and that's coming up, I explained to them the importance of a blueprint is that if we look at even an architect who builds a building, no matter how much experience they have, they always create a blueprint.
Right.
They do not build a building without a blueprint. And as we are moving along in life and we're going to be successful entrepreneurs or whatever we are, we need to have a blueprint so
That's
that
right.
we can go back to the plan and remember how it is that we're going to get to the end.
That's right. That's right, man. So you done said, so that's just like when you realize ultimately when you in your faith, because you mentioned that, and I'm a believer as well. So when you was in prison, you realize, okay, if God is in me, and you got to think about how God or how Jesus would think, if that's whom you believe in, and he sent you the messenger. He sent you the messenger, and he sat back and said, I'm going to wait on Joe. Send you another message. Send the messenger out, and he said, I'm going to wait on Joe. Then finally Joe said, I'm coming.
Something like that.
I'm coming.
You want me to tell you how that went?
I went.
Okay, so my first time in prison, before I went, I had cried out to God. 9 months before I went, there was a life-changing event that took place, and I began to ask him to take the lifestyle away from me because I love the lifestyle. This is why I told God, like, look, I love this lifestyle. I'm gonna need you to take it away from me because I don't want to die in the streets.
Right.
So I went to prison, and I done that time. Now, however, the evidence that they brought against me, that they showed me that I done, to this day I don't remember doing, but I took the plea.
Right.
You know, I'm never saying that I didn't sell drugs. I sold all the drugs I could get my hands on.
Right.
So let's not ever get that confused. But
Right.
the evidence that they showed me, I didn't remember doing, which was sending money to California. I never remember sending that money to California. So I trust God
Right.
to deliver me from that, because they told me, like, the only way you'll get out of this if they change the laws or if you cooperate, yada, yada, yada. So and then when I end up having to do all that time, when I realized that they did change the law and it was for crack, which crack was what I sold, but because I was up under the statutory mandatory minimum, which is why you always hear me advocate to do away with mandatory minimums.
Right.
When I realized that's what I was up under, I didn't fall up under the criteria for the new law. So I was angry at God.
Right.
And so I went to God and I told him, look here, this is how we gonna do this. I am not campaigning for you anymore. If somebody asks me about you, I tell you the truth. I tell them the truth, but I'm not campaigning for you. So I was released, did my time, spent 3 years out here, and then was facing a mandatory life sentence. At that point, when they put me in those handcuffs, I never forget, I heard it clear as day. God said, I turned around because I had began to shift when I got that last job within that last year. It was a good paying job. So I began to shift, and I hadn't sold drugs for at least 8-9 months. And I had spoke openly in front of a congregation 3 times, not planning to do it, just so happened to done it. And when they put me in those handcuffs, I never forget, I said, God, what is going on? And he said, do you still trust me? I was like, oh man, yeah, but not another one of these. So it was more so me getting to the point of understanding that there's only, when God has a calling on your life, there's only going to be one way. There will not be any negotiating.
That's it.
There's only going to be one standard. And so that is how my came to the, okay, I get it. It's only one way with you, and it's going to be to serve you. And I never forget, as I was doing that time and going through prison, God, he didn't even whisper. He made sure that I heard it loud and clear. He said, Joe, don't let prison be the only place that you hear my voice, because you will hear my voice. Meaning, if this is where you have to stay to hear my voice, then this is going to be the end result. This is where we'll stay.
That's it. But he had different plans for you.
But he had different plans.
Yes. So let's talk about like your upbringing, your surround. Have you always been that type person that was like, I want to sell drugs, or was you introduced to it? Or let's talk about school.
All right, so we'll hit school first. When I was, I never forget, from going from the 6th grade to the 7th grade, I had scholarships to go to Baylor and McCollege. Yeah. Nevertheless, I went and Christmas treed the test. I flunked them on purpose because it wasn't popular. My friends at the time that I had, they couldn't go, so it was like I didn't want to go alone. At this point, I was beginning to be concerned with images. And so I had to take care, I had to help because of circumstances and what it was like growing up. I had to help my mom out big time with raising us. So I started working at the age of 13. I was working at Ingle Stadium, which was right down the street. Then I got my first job at Captain D's at 15.
Yeah.
And because of the upbringing, to be honest, like I had to check in home every check, and I would only get to keep half of it. And so, along with images, a mixture of it, and me wanting to have, because at that time minimum wage was $3.35 an hour, and so I'm working my butt off, and then I got to take that half of that check and give it to mama.
Right.
And so I said, man, I got to come up with a way that I can make some money that can't be accounted for.
Right.
So it started off, you understand what I'm saying, with a little petty weed selling, and that's how I started off. And as time went on, not being popular really, I moved from one side of town to the other. Like by the time that I had began to go to Brainerd High School, I had just moved. I had been in Red Bank Junior High. I stayed in Allen Park, went to Allen Park. And I just was never settled enough to really have any friends in either section. So I was kind of like always not popular, not alone. I didn't have, so I was by myself.
Right.
And I said, man, I got to do something, And then once I sold weed, I really started selling weed.
Yeah.
And at this time now, people calling my name, so I began to make a name for myself. And I went from weed. Then once I started selling dope, then at that point it was City Code Joe and this, that, and the other. So I was popular, and I had forgot all about the fact that I enjoyed at one point being smart, like making good grades.
Right.
And so I didn't care about school. I went to school, and I slept every day because I was high. Yeah. I had been smoking. I woke up. I smoked a joint before I went to school, and I slept through school, got out of school, and done what I done. And at that point, I just continued to spiral into that lifestyle. And that's why I always talk about images, like never be, when I get a chance to speak to the youth, I explain to them to embrace who they are.
Exactly.
And don't give it up just to create or fit in, because
Right.
that's what I done. I gave it up to fit in, and then I ended up being trapped in that all the way up until I was 40 years old.
Man, thank you for dropping that now. And as I recall, too, growing up in that area, like your mom, too, was like the parent for the whole community. Everybody bust up over Miss Craddock's house and be like, yo, go in the bag. Yo, you can eat, you can do sleep, whatever. Her house was open to everybody to come. And she's still that same way because she look out for kids. And she's always, treated everybody like they're her own kid, no matter, she's always looked out for everybody pretty much. So once you got involved into this lifestyle, man, did you have kids at this time? Were you still just kind of single, mingling? And
No, I did. I think when I dropped out of school, I went to Job Corps in Gainesville, Florida. That's where my first son was conceived, and then I came home, and then my daughter that was in like '93. She was born in '93, and so I did have children.
Yeah.
And I also remember a lot of different things play factors in why you make the decisions that you make.
Right.
I always remember that I had went and in Job Corps, I was took up auto body and painting. So I came home and I was trying to work and do that, and I was working at I believe Earl Shire was where I was working at, and it just really, if you don't have tools, and that's why I always tell the young adults and anybody, if you take a trade, invest in the tools, and for people who are wanting to upfront help people out with trades, don't just get them a trade and don't help them with tools,
Right.
because you're just a laborman without tools. You really are not in position to reap the full benefits of your trade
Right.
if you have no tools.
True.
And seeing the fact that I didn't have tools, I was getting paid basically low ball for my skills.
Right.
And I never forget, my daughter needed Pampers on a couple of occasions, and I was like, look, this ain't working. And at that point I did. That's when initially I went to the crack.
you went full
I went to the crack.
Right, and everybody was buying it during that time. So did you ever encounter like anybody who, like friends that you grew up with, neighbors, like their parents would start getting and using crack? Like, how did that make you feel? Or
It did. It was hurtful to see, because I was a mama's boy. So whenever I would see mothers or anything like that using crack, my heart would go out. It really bothered me.
Right.
It bothered me on a large scale to see that, because I knew that I had to help, like my family, and I had to be the man of the house at an early age, and I just knew the stress that it had on me.
Right.
And so watching those mothers come up like that, it really had an effect on me so much to where I had a certain spot in my heart for the people that I sold crack to, like especially if they were mothers. Like I would listen to them tell their stories about, they would cry on my, like not literally
Right.
on my shoulder, but I still sold them crack, but I would listen to them,
So what they said,
and
yeah.
I would also try to drop some jewels and give them something, like, what I'm saying, just keep trying or whatnot.
Yeah.
I tell them, like, I probably wasn't helping the situation a whole lot, but I'd be like, what I'm saying, keep trying to get better tomorrow.
Right, and keep doing it, but at least you put that in, because I used to be so angry, especially if I saw somebody selling my mama the same thing. Oh, I was running up on them. You don't sell this to my mama, and I'm like, Demetrius, you do realize you selling it to somebody else's parents. You know what I mean? I'd be like, it was just craziness. And my mama used to be like, girl, if you don't leave me alone, like, cause that's what she wanted to do.
Right.
And I was like, nah, you can't smoke dope. You my mama.
Like she's exempt.
Right. It's like, nah, this ain't for my mama. But,
got you.
She eventually got it together. So let's talk about the day that you got sentenced. So when a judge told you were sentenced to how many months? 100 and something months.
Oh, the first time?
The first time and the second. The first time you did what, 120 months.
Yeah.
And then that second time you did what, like 100?
The second time I just had a 62-month sentence, which I
62
did 5 years on.
So how did you, when they called your name?
The first time.
The first time, and Jess was like, we sentencing you to 120 months. How did that make you feel? Could you see 120 months at that time?
I remember, so it was a lot of things. If you're talking about like when I was in the courtroom, I'm going to be honest, all that was in my head was because my mom was looking, so I've been the rock of my family, and I was more concerned about how they were viewing me. So I'd never forget, it was like hold, you know what I'm saying, shoulders back, chest out,
Right.
get that time and go on. Now don't get it misunderstood. I had some days that I cried,
Right.
but I was not gonna let my family see it, you know. And so that was initially, and then I also remember saying, damn, I ain't never going home. You know, so I did have those, that hit too, but as far as getting the time in the courtroom, because in federal court, most of the time, you know what you're going to get.
Right.
So I knew that I had that 10-year sentence that I was going to get, and the main thing was, like, y'all had ripped me for everything else. I'd be damn if I dropped my head and let you see me buckle right here in front of my mama.
Right. They done stripped your name and everything, and it's like, now you just gonna identify me by a number?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold up. So now the second time, once you got it, what that transitioning moment, did you participate in any programs, or did you, anything that you took from prison to you now that's like helping with the transition or anything?
Ask me exactly the question that you asked.
So
me.
did you go to a drug program before you came home? Did you go to a drug program? Did you have to work at Unicorn? Did you have to, did you do any kind of programming?
So here it is, and I think this is very good for somebody to know. I worked 3 jobs in there, in prison, just so I could make a total of probably about $70 a month.
Yeah.
Because the way I seen it, if my people was gonna send me money, then I could get up and go to work and make some money in here too.
Right.
But the jobs helped me. One of the jobs I did work was I worked in the computer lab, and that's where I learned how to do Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, Word, Excel. That's where I got those skills. But when you mentioned programs, I had already took the RDAP program when I got out before, because I wasn't going to get any time off.
Right.
I wasn't going to take it again. But when I did take it, they got good core values that I walked away with, and I still utilized them the second time in.
Right.
I just wasn't going to go through the scrutiny of what come with the program, and not get any time off. But what I really want to focus on is the fact that what I did for programming was, is me and a guy, and his name is Leon Johnson, and he the first guy that I went to with my plan, and he's still in. But I worked his reentry program, and that's how I end up with my own reentry program, which is the Brave Effect, and we haven't even said nothing about that yet.
Right, that's coming up.
But so what I learned was, programs and reentry programs, for some reason, it seems like they forgetting to ask us what we need.
Right.
And they're coming up and they build these programs and they make them on what I believe to be statistics. And, and that didn't work for me. And even when I get out, like when we got out or whatever, the halfway house, their programs, like we just go through it as a checkoff list. We ain't got nothing coming with that.
Exactly.
As far as being helpful, they gonna give you the same thing that you worked in the workbooks from the RDAP, and at that point, it's a checkoff list to get to where you got to go.
Right.
But the program that I took with my guy that he created, it really challenged me. He really tapped into my thinking process, what really targeted, certain things going back all the way to my youth, like what makes you like this, or what makes you like that. And so, so much to the point that I took his program twice. And if you, when you see that, my video that comes out, if you see that certificate that's on the wall, that certificate came from his program.
Yeah.
I didn't, and it's nothing against the programs that the BOP bring. I think they need to be strengthened. I think they need to be, gone back into, revised. But I'm gonna be honest, those programs, I think that they're based on funding and checkoff lists. And that's just where it's at with me, So,
that's the truth. Man, it sound like we need to get, what's your friend name?
Leon Johnson. He a beast. I call him the brains.
Yeah, we need to get him to come on out here and do some things. So let's talk about your passion and your why. Because I be watching. So I've been seeing you boots on the ground since day one. Like, we got to do something about these mandatory minimums. We got to, we got to change some laws around here. And, as you know, I'm very passionate about reform as well. And so you came up with a program.
I did.
So let's talk about it. Tell us about it.
So the Brave Effect, that's the name, the Brave Effect. And Brave is an acronym for Building Relationships and Valuable Encounters. Because one thing that I learned is that when we was in the hood and we was selling dope, we limited ourselves.
Right.
We limited our understanding, our education, and the importance of resources. So while I was in there the second time, I didn't hang with the homies. I put myself around doctors, lawyers,
Yes.
entrepreneurs, and the list goes on. Like in politics, those are the people that, and I glean from them.
Right.
And I got everything that I can get from them. That's how I come. That's why I got 2 business plans in here, and because those were the conversations that I began to have, and so
Right.
I learned about etiquette, because we proprieties of etiquette and professionalism, because we lacked them big. I didn't even know what the word etiquette was until I stumbled across it,
Right.
back in prison. I was like, this is what we missing, and I think a lot of times it keeps us out of places that we
Right.
could get into. And
Absolutely.
so many of our people look at it as if though like we sell out our culture when we begin to speak on etiquette and
Right.
putting ourselves in position as far as presentation wise to get through those doors and get at those tables that we need to be in. But I think that is so much of a myth, because if we want things to change, then we're gonna have to rise to the occasion.
That's it.
And we're gonna have to, our verbiage, the way we speak. I'm not saying that I don't understand or I don't speak when we speak amongst us, but
Right.
when it's time, you need to know how to
You
open
know
your
how to
mouth.
do it. Right.
And you need to know how to ask for what you want. And we need to know the words
Exactly.
that we speak so that people know that we want when it comes to grants, when it comes just whatever it is that we're trying to get into, grants, loans, when we're trying to get into schools or whatnot, we are separated by our presentation in a lot of cases.
I agree with that, man. So we're Brave Effect.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's the mission or the vision like you want to display to people?
Okay,
gravitate
so Brave Effect, what makes Brave Effect so unique is that we only, at this time, cater to those who have a renewed mindset.
Yes.
It's not for everybody. And the reason being, because everybody ain't serious about change. Let's just get
True.
that out there. Some
Right.
people, they change because of their environment. And then when we get back to our environment, I done it. Then I switch back to what I knew. However, I do believe that those who aren't serious about reentry, they waste the resources. The resources get fed up, and it gives a bad name for those coming behind that really want to utilize the resources
Right.
to get in position so that we can have successful reentry.
That's right.
So the BRAVE program, the first thing that you have to have is a plan. I will not take a participant without a plan.
That's
and
right.
so we focus on proprieties of etiquette. We focus on this personality trait assessment test, so
Right.
people can understand what their personality traits are. Because the better that you understand you,
Right.
the better that you can deliver you.
That's it.
And the better that I get to understand who you are, because I can look at you and be like, okay, this must be what your trait is.
Right.
You may be standing firm, but it may not have nothing to do with me personally. You just may be,
Right.
your personality
Your
trait
personality.
may just be steady or assertive or, whatever. So, or even dominant, but
Right.
it doesn't have anything to do with me personally.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
and so our main thing is to be a conduit, to be the resource that we can get those people that are serious, get
Right.
them the proper resources and get them in position from employment. In the future, we definitely looking at initial housing, entrepreneurship,
Yes. all of
careers.
that. Man.
We are the go-to, the in-between to get
Right.
those things done. And like even in the meanwhile, what we do is those who just probably might be out here lingering. Like I learned just a week ago that we don't want people to have to go to jail in order to help them. So if it's somebody that I can help out here right
Right.
now and can make the perfect connection with employment, jobs or whatnot to get those things taken care of with the resources that we have,
Right.
we want to be able to provide
We wanna
those.
be able
But
to help.
the Brave Effect Reentry Coaching Program, we do consider ourselves as lifestyle development advisors,
Right.
and we just want to help people develop those lifestyles that they say that they want and that they
Right.
show that they want.
Man, absolutely. That's a great program. So how do people get connected to you to be a part of Brave Effect if they really they ready for that life changing?
For the most part, it is. I'm loving the word of mouth. The website is presently under construction.
Okay.
You can always hit me on Facebook. You can hit me on Instagram up under Joe Jenkins or the Brave Effect.
Okay.
You can also call 423. Wait a minute, make sure I give you the right phone number. 423-697. No, 423. I don't forgot my phone number.
Look it up.
Hold on. Let me get my phone number. Where's my phone number?
I know it because look, we don't.
693-5961. 423-693-5961. Or you can email me at thebrave, THEBRAVE, with an additional E, a number 4 at Gmail.
Yes, that is. I'm sure your email is going to be flooded. And then also, well, is it something you want to share that people may not know about Joe?
That people may not know about Joe. That I hardly get any sleep.
Man, what's sleep? What's sleep? Man, hey, you know what? Because people think you sleeping around here and you really working.
Man, I'm not only working, but I'm woke. But
Right.
if they could take a takeaway, like, listen, be victorious, step into your victory. You know, that victim mindset is you adopt it. You don't have to. You can get rid of that victim mindset, and you can claim to be victorious. And everything that you put your hands on, you can be victorious over it. I'm a living witness.
That's it. Man,
I'm a living witness. Do not settle, people. Do not settle.
At
Do not
all. Like, man, people, when I tell you from Joe to City Code Joe, back to Joe, it's been a transition.
settle. And if I can encourage somebody, like when I say don't be a victim, people coming out, they say, oh, the system is against us, we can't do this, and blah, 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 and all that. Listen, man, less than 15 months of being home, I purchased my first home.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the jewels.
I don't say this to be cocky. I say it to give somebody encouragement, to give somebody
Right.
inspiration.
That's it.
You understand? My second year being home, I grossed over 60 grand on my job.
Yes.
I don't say it to spread and be cocky. I'm saying, look, if I done it, you
If
can
you
do
done
it.
That's it.
Don't lay down.
At all.
Don't believe
accept
the
no
hype.
for it.
Don't keep accepting that it's not out there. Yeah, there's challenges, and yes, there are struggles.
But you got to
Yes, the scales are unbalanced. Yes, but the more of your focus you put right there, you're taking away energy from your victory.
Man, and that's it. Man, that was a mic drop moment right there. So, but because it's one thing that I didn't bring up that I want to mention is that we all saw the headlines when it said the 32 worst of the worst. And in my mind, I was like, worst of the worst? Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
How are these people, my friends, how do you get them a label of worst of the worst? Like, I'm like, well, when the Klan burnt that cross in my grandmama yard, you didn't say they was the worst of the worst. Like, I mean, how do you just put that on somebody? How did that make you feel?
Initially or in the end?
Initially and in the end.
Initially, it hurt. It hurt because my initial thoughts was, man, I ain't killed nobody.
Right.
All I did was sell drugs. I ain't, you know, that was initially, and it hurt. And I wanted I wanted to fight. I wanted to fight the feds, the newspaper, and I did it through helping people with their case. Like
Right.
when I first started off doing pretrial and sentencing consulting from the Bradley County Jail, I was doing it, and I was driven by anger.